we should have a rehearsal since everyone's up here, I must say. Let me just start by saying how thrilled I am to have Janneke joining this organization as a partner. You know, the thing that impressed me about her is her passion for and understanding of what this festival represents. She, of course, has lots of experience. You've heard about that. So we will find lots of fundraising going on and lots of building the organization. And it's a real pleasure to welcome her to this team. It reminded me that the team seems to be kind of like a law firm right now, Morris, Morris, and Straub. You're the first Morris. You're always the first Morris, Mike. Yeah. But before I talk about the festival, I'd like to invite Janneke to come up and maybe just say a few words of greeting to you.
I'm incredibly moved to be standing here in front of you today. This is just such a beautiful place. I mean, I'm, just so touched by the sheer beauty of the landscape, of course. The community is unbelievable. I'm just thrilled to be here in Ojai and to join the team of the Ojai Music Festival, the staff, the board of directors, and to work closely with Tom Morris. I would like every aspect of this festival to be as cutting edge and as fun, as engaging, as successful as the world-class concerts that this festival brings to Ojai and to the community here. I will do my best in the next few months to really hit the ground running to make this a beautiful, beautiful festival this year. I can't wait. I can't wait to get started. I am committed to building a very strong sense of community here, continuing the work that has been started here. I really believe in the community as the main support for this incredible festival. This extraordinary festival wouldn't be here without the community. So that's going to be a very large part of my work in the next few months. Just more personally, I'm sure you're curious. I love new music. I've loved new music since I was very young. My family liked Baroque music and new music. Everything in between was not acceptable to my dad, who was a very rational person. He was a scientist. And so I grew up with a lot of new music in my life. I'm a flutist. So of course we play Baroque music and contemporary music mostly. And I'm just in awe of the process of creation. I like everything that is new. I'm curious for. I don't necessarily like it after I've discovered it, but I like it before. Then I take a step back and I decide if I really loved it or not afterwards. But I'm interested in everything that's new and in discovering the beauty of what is new. So I'm interested in things that are beautiful and thought-provoking and that are new. So I just wanted to tell you all how excited I am today. I'm just so moved to be here after the process of going through the search, and I just can't wait to be actually here starting in January and meeting all of you individually and getting to know the community. So thank you for welcoming me.
So let me tell you about what's new and beautiful that's coming up. As you know, when we announced the bare bones of the 2014 festival, we announced the dates, June 12 to 15. We announced a few artists, and that's it. So until this moment, no one has known a thing about what we're actually going to do. We sold 40% of the tickets already, by the way. So it is on a roll. Jeremy Denk, who is our music director, is on a real roll, to put it mildly. In case you didn't know, he was awarded a MacArthur Fellowship grant in September. He was named just this last week as Instrumentalist of the Year by Musical America. This past summer, he was given a book contract by Random House to expand the article he wrote in the New Yorker last spring on his teachers into book form. He is currently artist in residence at the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston. And all of this while he continues to have a very active performing career as a pianist and as a chamber musician. He's currently in San Francisco performing with the San Francisco Symphony some Mozart concerto, and travels with them to Carnegie Hall next Wednesday, on top of everything else. And of course, as music director, we've added a new role for Jeremy, something he's never done, and that is he's become a librettist. We all know he's a great writer, but writing a libretto for an opera that he has dreamed up is a completely new thing, and that's one of the beauties of Ojai. We provide a laboratory and a blank slate for artists to reinvent themselves. At one of our first planning meetings, Jeremy said that he had a very, very mad idea for an opera, based on perhaps the most unlikely text that you can imagine, which is Charles Rosen's 1972 scholarly book called The Classical Style. Now, this book is a vivid description of the birth, the characteristics, and the death of the classical style in music. Basically, music that is defined by Haydn, Mozart, and Beethoven. And turning this into an opera, I have to say, was not the most obvious idea. But I trusted Jeremy's imagination and creativity and his writing. So I said, absolutely, we'll do it. And we secured Stephen Stuckey, noted American composers, who, by the way, spent, I think, 15 years as head of contemporary music activities with the Los Angeles Philharmonic, so he knows this area, to write the music for this opera. Now, this is a big project. We're not talking The Ring. We're talking about an hour-long chamber opera. It'll feature 8 singers, all singing multiple roles. The roles are Mozart, Haydn, Beethoven, Donna Anna, Don Giovanni, and the Commendatore from Don Giovanni, Charles Rosen himself, a preening musicologist named Henry Snibblesworth, and then the tonic, the dominant, and the subdominant, basic chords of the classical style. There's a role for something called the Tristan chord. There's a bartender, and finally there's a role for Robert Schumann. It's hysterically funny, it's very fast-paced, and really clever. Jeremy has been able to turn this book into a dramatic story. If you know music, you'll be wildly amused. If you don't know music, you'll be wildly amused. He basically has found a way to explain dramatically the essence of harmony and sonata form. Listen to 2 little excerpts from his synopsis. Scene 3, it's in 7 scenes. The dominant is in a bar, feeling unresolved. The tonic appears with an excess of certainty. The bartender comments wryly on this codependent relationship. The subdominant appears, healing all wounds. Mozart happens on the scene, looking for Charles Rosen, but finds himself attracted to the subdominant. Scene 6. We come upon the tonic, the dominant, the subdominant, again, trapped in their ongoing love triangle. A mysterious eye-patched visitor, the Tristan chord, warns them darkly of future developments. Chastened, the tonic, the dominant, and the subdominant decide to enjoy their system of meaning while it lasts. The opera ends as Charles Rosen and Robert Schumann are left on stage sitting at the piano, playing plaintive fragments of his fantasy, quotations of Beethoven with the harmonic polarity blurred, reimagined, the disillusion of the classical style, never to return. This opera is a co-commission of the Ojai Music Festival. Cal Performances in Berkeley, where the opera will be given 2 performances in the week following the world premiere here. Carnegie Hall, where it'll be given a performance in Zankel Hall in December 2014. And the Aspen Music Festival, where it'll be performed in July 2015. The project was formally announced about 3 weeks ago and is already capturing enormous press attention, not just in America, but abroad. Charles Rosen, unfortunately, passed away last December, creating some momentary rights issues, which have happily been resolved. Jeremy was a close friend of Charles Rosen, and they spoke frequently about this project as it was being born. And Jeremy reported that the ever avuncular Charles Rosen was bemused but supportive. The idea of dramatic rights for such a book had not been on his radar screen. The classical style, as I said, will be given its world premiere on Friday evening, June 13. As part of the Ojai Talks, our symposia, Ara Gozalimian will lead a panel discussion on the implications, impact, and meaning of the book itself. This is a major, fundamental book on the history and what meaning of music. It will dedicate that session to Rosen's memory. And suffice it to say that we have devised a festival around this sort of basic idea that will reflect Jeremy Denk's very, very unique, creative, and lighthearted but serious view of music. Joining us will be the Chamber Orchestra The Knights from New York City, which is a very unique orchestra, a young group, which calls itself not an orchestra, but an orchestral collective. Conductor Robert Spano, who was music director in 2006, who will conduct the opera, the classical style, and also some music by Morton Feldman. A sensational young violinist named Jennifer Frautschi, jazz composer and pianist Yuri Kane, performing not only with his trio, but a concert of his recomposed music of Gustav Mahler. Sounds completely weird. It is really weird, but this is music. It's a real Mahler, but you're not going to recognize a lot of it. It's written for jazz sextet, Jewish cantor, and disc jockey. We're bringing the path-breaking string quartet Brooklyn Rider, and on top of it all, a completely mesmerizing singer named Storm Large, of all things. That's her real name, Storm Large, who will sing Kurt Weill's Seven Deadly Sins, a specialty of hers. She'll also do a late-night cabaret concert. This woman performed this as part of our Spring for Music Festival with the Detroit Symphony last May, and you have to see this to believe it. It's amazing. The full schedule is going to be announced later this week, and it'll be, I'll give you a quick rundown. So starting on Thursday, the 12th of July, there'll be 2 Ojai Talks that Ara Gozalimian will direct. One, a discussion with Jeremy Denk on his career, his thoughts about music, and his challenge in writing an opera and building a festival. And the second with 2 gentlemen named Eric and Colin Jacobson, who are the visionary founders of the Knights. And that's going to be a panel discussion on the new orchestra. In the evening, the music will start, a concert that begins with Jeremy Denk playing a wonderful piece by Janacek, The Overgrown Path, and the second half will be the Mahler Project with Yuri Kane. I mentioned the talk on the classical style, which will be Friday afternoon, and that'll be a rather extended panel discussion with a number of pretty interesting folks joining Ara. Again, the music continues in the evening with a Haydn string quartet with Brooklyn Rider and the classical style. We figured what better way to set up the classical style than actually playing something in the classical style. And Yuri Kane and his trio will do a late night jazz concert. Saturday again begins with a morning concert, an early morning 8 a.m. concert with Brooklyn Rider, a string quartet. We haven't settled the exact location yet. And then at 11 in the morning, Jeremy Denk and Jennifer Fauci will do a program of all 4 violin sonatas by Charles Ives. It's about 65 minutes of music, and again, you really can kind of hear almost a mini history of music through these 4 remarkable works. In the evening, something very different, a 3-part sort of mega concert. At 5:30, it will be about an hour program that'll start with a new work for piano, world premiere, by a young composer named Andrew Norman that Jeremy Denk will perform. It's being written for him. And following that, another work by another young composer named Timo Andres. These 2 gentlemen, Andrew Norman and Timo Andres, are 2 of the hot young composers in the so-called Brooklyn School. Very, very creative, very imaginative. And Timo Andres' piece is called The Coronation Concerto Recomposed. And that's Mozart's Coronation Concerto. When Mozart, if you look at the Mozart manuscript for this piece, you'll find the complete orchestra parts written out, but the solo piano part, the only thing written is the treble line. The rest of the harmonies and the counterpoint in the solo piano were not written because Mozart played this himself and he improvised. When the work was published, somebody filled it out, and that's how you usually hear it. What Timo Andres has done is taken the original manuscript and reimagined what it would be like if he, as a contemporary composer, improvised the piano part today. So it's like listening to a perfectly normal Mozart piano concerto, which all of a sudden and occasionally and continually wanders off into outer space and comes back into focus. You will always hear the Mozart treble line in the piano, but the harmonies, the counterpoint, make it an extremely different experience. At 8 o'clock, the Knights will do sort of a typical Knights program, music by Boccherini, a piece by Andrew Norman, some music by Philip Glass, and in the second half, one of these continuous sequence of pieces, a short piece by Morton Feldman called Madame Press Died at 90, a short piece of Karl-Heinz Stockhausen, and ending with the Kurt Weill 7 Deadly Sins with Storm Large and a completely miraculous vocal quartet of male singers called Hudson Shad, who are very theatrical, very eclectic, and I suspect you just may see them pop up in a few bonus events from time to time. And as if that's not enough, at 10:30 will be a late night concert in which Jennifer Fauci will play a Bach violin partita, and Bob Spano will conduct Morton Feldman's gorgeous Rothko Chapel. It's a piece for chorus, with viola, celeste, and percussion. One of the most beautiful pieces you'll ever hear, completely still and calming and soothing. I can't think of a better place to do this piece, and particularly at night. On Sunday morning, and after that, by the way, Storm Large will carry forth on a cabaret evening. It will not be in a traditional location. Sunday morning will start at 8 with a concert which we're calling a Hymn Fest at Meditation Mount with our chorus. We have the Ojai Festival Singers that we've put together, and this will be a collection of old and new hymns, Billings, Ives, and others, including some more familiar ones that the audience will be invited to join in on. At 11 a.m., back in the bowl, again, going back to demonstrating the classical style, Mozart's Jupiter Symphony with the Knights, and then the second half, something called a canonade that Jeremy Denk has devised, which is basically a collection of musical canons that have been strung together and interlaced, music by Schumann, music by Mozart, a series of, believe it or not, scatological canons by Mozart for voices. Yes, scatological, you know, dirty lyrics. He wrote them. Colin Nankro, Tom Addis, and some relatively recently discovered canons by Bach, the Goldberg canons, that Yuri Kane is arranging for diverse forces and probably scattered forces around the bowl. The closing concert will be Jeremy Denk performing Books 1 and 2 by Ligeti's piano etudes. These are without any question always mentioned as one of the great masterpieces, one of the 10 great masterpieces written in the last 25 years. I mean, just amazing and fiendishly difficult. They have not been played in Ohio. I mean, 2 of them have been played, but not the whole set. There's 12 of them, and he plays them for memory, and he plays them continually right through. It is a tour de force that will take your breath away. And then the second half is, again, one of these sort of sequences of pieces. We'll start with a psalm by Charles Ives for chorus and organ and antiphonal bells, an a cappella chorus piece, which we're still working on, and closing with, of all things, the Beethoven Choral Fantasy with Jeremy Denk. And we'll add additional small events and films and all those kinds of things. So this is a festival that's about music. It's against the framework of classical pillars, Mozart, Haydn, and Beethoven, that will examine music of their music and others through very different lens, whether the Stuckey Denk classical style or Yuri Kane's unique take on Mahler, Timo Andrus' reimagining of Mozart's Coronation Concerto, the music of Charles Ives, which is all about music, Denk's eclectic views on musical canons, Ligeti's extraordinary piano etudes, which you'll hear all possible styles of music interlaced, and the ultimate collection of styles and formats, actually, which is represented by the Beethoven Choral Fantasy, which is a bizarre piece indeed, but great fun. So this will be an adventure of musical passions, fun, provocation, but very serious intent. Don't miss it, and I look forward to seeing you. Thank you.